Alright, so today begins the official wiring of the F100. We've got an assortment of parts here. This is a foam board template. We got some terminals, we got some relays, got a fuse box, some smaller relays, and I got my wiring diagrams that I've drawn out, and I'll show that in more detail in just a minute. We got a handful of tools, we got boxes of other stuff right in here. And I plan on leaving a list of all the parts that I used in the description, so if anybody's trying to do the same thing, they have the list of the exact parts that I'm using. First thing I did was I made a template for a plate in the kick panel of the truck. So in the cab on the passenger side kick panel, this will fit inside the kick panel and hold everything that I need it to hold. So I'll show how that fits in. Okay, so this may be future me just showing where this fuse panel is getting mounted in the truck. So we're at the passenger side kick panel, and my board is designed to fit in here behind those bars, and I've got some standoffs, which you'll see, to push it back and sink it into this cavity of the truck. But you can do the same thing wherever you want your fuse panel to go. Make yourself a template and then start laying out all your parts and pieces on it to make sure they fit and can orientate in the right way. Once I got that done, what I did is, because I work for a sign company, I just drew it up in the computer and had it routed out of this polymetal or max metal. It's just an aluminum faced plastic. It's really strong, really durable, and super lightweight and clean looking. And that's what I'm going to use to build mine. So, based off my template here, we got a fuse box here. We got some terminals up here. We got a main relay here. And we'll have 4 relays going like this. And then right here, I have a ground pole in the design. So I'm just going to run a bolt through, and on the back side it'll be grounded and come through, and then I can run all my grounds to that bolt. And because I had such a roomy panel here, I have the ability to add more relays if I need it, or a bigger fuse panel if I need it. Okay, so let's look at some wiring. Now this, you can't see the text on it, didn't print out big enough. But what we have here is my fuse panel and how it all goes out to everything, and then I drew it out here. Now I've redrawn it since with this design, and I plan on showing that in the video. But essentially what we've got is a main switch to switch on power to our board. So the way that's going to work is we have a breaker between our battery and our main relay. So this is going to be our main relay here. This is a 40 amp relay, and the way this is going to work is the whole fuse panel will not have any power until the main relay is switched. So, and that keeps us from having to run a lot of power through a main switch like on the dashboard. So we have a main switch that is drawing power from the battery and switches the main relay. Now, like I said, between the board and the battery is a giant breaker. So the reason I have this breaker instead of like a giant fuse is I can use this as a safety switch. I can just break it anytime I want and then click it back. So that's what I like about this. But this will be getting mounted close to the battery, not on this board. So once we've switched the main relay and power is coming through our main relay into our fuse box, which is right here, all of our fuses will have power. So our line of relays here will all get power from a fuse. So that means that everything that the relay is powering has a fuse that can blow. And then the relays will go out to things that are carrying a heavier load, such as the fuel pump, the radiator fan. We got probably some headlights or things like that. So that's what the relays will power. And then I can just run a simple switch that switches the relay and gives the accessory power. Now in this design I have a ground bar, but as I said before, on the actual panel everything's just going to come to a ground pole here that'll be grounded. You could run a ground bar if you wanted to. And so then we have the terminals. So you can see here one is power out and one is switch in. So one wire for the relays is to switch the relay and let power through. It will run through these terminals. These are just a good connection point that just makes your life easier and makes the board look cleaner. So this one connects to 1, 2 connects to 2. It's just a solid bar in there and gives you some mounting points, but they're separated left to right. So one will just be the wire that goes off to the switch coming in, and then it hooks to the relay. And then when the power comes out of the relay, once it's switched, it goes through here and then out to the accessory, and so on and so forth. Because I have 4 relays, I need 8 connections, 2 per relay. These little terminals have 4 each, so 2 on the board and we're good to go. This box holds 12 fuses. One thing I noticed people didn't like is that how the lights are set up. Some people take the lights out, but I decided to leave them in. I don't have anything that I have to worry about, and you can look at the reviews to see the concerns that people are having with those fuse panels. But for our application for this truck, it's perfectly fine. Plus we get the benefit of if a fuse goes out, we know which one because it lights up. So once we have main power coming into our relay, it'll hook up here to this bus, and essentially we'll have power coming to these relays waiting to be switched. And then also we have this blank side for other accessories that don't need relays, just fuses. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get started hard mounting this to this board. Another thing is some people have a hard time understanding relays. I have a hard time understanding relays as well, so I'm not even going to attempt to begin to explain how they work. I understand it in my head. So if you have a hard time understanding relays, I'm going to link to a video of where I got the idea for this whole fuse panel. In that video they also share how relays work if you don't understand. There's also some other good videos out there, simple videos on how a relay works and why you want one. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is lay out all your parts perfectly on your panel where you want them. Now for me, this little cutout here goes around the box for the door hinge. So I need to make sure that my wires can still feed in and out, which is why I'm keeping them backed off just a little bit. Now these cases as well, the clear plastic part just pops off, so you don't have to worry about getting it from the top. Here, you can get it from outside here. And also you have to pop these off to be able to screw in the boxes. Okay, because I want to make this look as professional as possible, I'm going to be using just a right angle and getting everything squared up. Now that I have those squared up, I'm going to use a center punch tool because it can reach into these tight holes. And punch it. So now we have our center marks for those. These particular relays can interlock in several different ways. So I'm going to utilize that just to keep it tighter and cleaner looking. So now we have a whole block here, and that's really clean looking, and that's satisfying to me. One other thing I didn't mention is the only thing that comes with mounting hardware or screws is the fuse panel or the fuse box. So for mounting these as well as your relays, you're just going to want to go grab yourself some nice screws. Alright, so those are mounted up. We obviously have screws sticking through the back. When it's all said and done, I'm going to cut these off and grind them smooth. Alright, we got those mounted up. Okay, this is all put together now. So next we're going to wire it up essentially. So real quick, I'm going to go grind all these off, and then we're going to get to wiring all these up. Alright, so everything is mounted and wired up. And I'll try my best to explain how everything's wired up. So on this particular 40 amp relay, blue is our power in. So this will be coming from our main source. This wire will be running to ground, and this will be our main switch wire here that will turn the relay on and allow power from the battery through to our fuse block. Now I have all the power in wires for these 4 relays on their own fuse. And then coming out, we have power out going through one terminal and the switch in for a relay coming in through a terminal. So power out, switch in, power out, switch in, power out, switch in, power out, switch in for each relay. And then the ground wires all ran over here. I just went to the hardware store and picked up this 1/4 inch bolt, and I will mount it through here in the corner, and that will be my common ground. And I'll have to extend a couple of these as well as this one to run it to this common ground, but the back side of this bolt will have a ground that goes to the battery. I also picked up some standoffs. What you want to do is, depending on what kind of hardware you used, you want a standoff that is slightly higher than all of your components, the way it's going to get mounted in the truck. And then there will be 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. And then all you'll have to do is put a bolt through the back sides, and then this will go through the mounting parts on the truck. But also don't be a dummy like me and only buy 4 bolts. You need 8 bolts. So each of the relays did not come with their connectors. So what I did is I bought this really nice case of connectors without the little plastic insulation pieces. For one, it makes them look a lot nicer, but it also lets you get a much better crimp, and if you want to, you can solder your connection. The only thing is you have to remember to put heat shrink on before you crimp it, and after you make your connection, you get a really clean looking end on your wires. So highly recommend going that way, getting non-insulated connectors. Okay, so I used my template from earlier to mark my range that I have to drill holes at the bottom. Down here I'm going to do between here and here. I'm going to put my standoffs in this lower chunk here. I've got my panel flush to the bottom. I'm going to put my standoffs there in that lower chunk, and then here in this lower chunk. And then after I drill these holes, probably 1 inch in or so, and also down here 1 inch in or so. After I do that, I'll then put my template back up, mark holes on my template, drill those out, lay it on the back side of my actual panel, drill those holes out, and then we can mount up the standoffs. Alright, there's my holes drilled in, there and there. I got them marked and put the standoffs on my template here, and we'll see how it looks. Alright, now that we got the board where it's mounted up, we've got our standoffs, everything's wired up. Now it's time to put in our ground pole so that we can get our common ground, extend our ground wires, and wire it up. And like I said, when we get to that point, we'll have a ground coming off of the battery post that'll go to the back side of this. The bolt will go through it, through this board, and then all of our connections here. Alright, all of our relays are now wired into our common ground. We've got the 4 relays coming through here, all tied together, and heat shrinked those together and then tied them into the main relay, which, to make it look neat, I just drilled a hole there and a hole there and poked it through. And so, as you can see, it has a clean look from the outside. Comes back through. We got it put back together here and tighten down. I think I'm going to leave it here. This will be part 1 of wiring up the truck. So this is just getting the fuse box and all that ready to go, which finally now we do. And so from here we're going to move on to wiring in the battery, wiring in my alternator, and accessories and things like that. But yeah, this will do it for now. This is how to make your fuse panel for a 1953 F100, or if you're creative enough, for any car. So there you go. We'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.